Mere Conservatism.
David Perry, I'm Cleve Walker, and this is Mere Conservatism, as you might know already. And the three fronts that I want us to get to, well, we're going to start off with the first, with social media again, because that's important. And it's reared its ugly head again. Twitter has silenced yet another conservative voice. This time, they have banned Project Veritas founder James O'Keefe. The platform banned O'Keefe after Project Veritas released that hidden camera footage that you talked about a while back of CNN technical director Charlie Chester saying how the network purposefully would run unverified stories on President Trump in an effort to sway viewers and voters to vote Trump out of the White House in 2020. So they got that, and Twitter said,
Yeah.
We ain't gonna let you continue to, post this on our platform. So anyway, O'Keefe, by the way, is doing what I'm hoping everybody does from this point forward. He is suing Twitter.
Yeah, he absolutely should. No. So one point real quick.
Okay.
You want to talk about a rigged election? This is without a doubt totally true.
It doesn't get more rigged. I mean,
CNN.
Yes.
Running fake stories about Donald Trump in order to get him out. This guy said that was part of their job, was to defeat Trump. This is the definition of a rigged election. The media rigged it. So even before you get to the votes and the shenanigans and stuff like that on election day, the absentee ballots and whatever, you got a media arm of the Democratic Party who is masquerading as journalists.
Well, yeah.
And they are absolutely rigging these elections. So that I wanted to say right off the top. The idea that Twitter is suspending James O'Keefe as if James O'Keefe is the person who has done something wrong here.
Right.
And they're not going to, are they going to suspend CNN for running fake stories?
No.
Of course not.
Of course not.
Of course, they're not going to do that. Now, their guise is that they're going to say that they're not going to allow anything on their platform that is taken in secret, like because it was a hidden camera. They're not going to run it.
Yeah. No,
they're not consistent on that for sure.
No.
The truth is they are totally biased. They don't want negative things out about their people, about the left. They're carrying water for the left, and they're going to silence things. This is it's fascism. Because what you have here is a big business partnering with a certain political wing with the government now which by the way is in power. So you have this private company partnering with the government to silence others and to make sure the only message that gets out is the one that they approve.
Right.
This is what fascism is.
It's exactly, and you brought up at the angle of it being a rigged election because CNN and the regular media doing their thing, but also social media was in on it. So it was totally a rigged election.
Yeah.
We don't even have to talk about the ballot harvesting and that kind of stuff. We don't have to bring it up, although I do believe, of course, that was wrong. It was rigged from the get-go when you have both the media and the new social media literally in the tank for the Democrats. And so, I mean, but this here is my point. The reason I brought the story up, though, David, is this is what we've got to do. We've got to fight. And we've got to sue, and we've got to litigate. We've got to do whatever we can. We can't not just take it. And the other thing we got to do, and it's happening, by the way, we got to have an alternative to like Twitter and things of that nature and Facebook. We got to have an alternative where the truth can be disseminated. So I'm really glad O'Keefe is not taking this lying down. I think we've been doing that. I think every time we do that,
Cleve, look, it's a private company. They can do whatever they want.
Right.
That's what the excuse is.
Yeah.
And look, when private companies are now partnering with the government to oppress people, it's no longer. This is a different thing, and there has been a lot of discussions on the conservative side about how to handle this issue. There's a lot of interesting discussions going on about exactly what conservatives should do, and the idea that Twitter is now the public square, and it should be treated that way. Twitter or Facebook or Google or whatever, they're saying that these online platforms are the public square. This is your soapbox that you get to stand on and say whatever you want. That's how it should be, because without access to these things, you are effectively silenced.
You are.
And there's an argument, and there's a conservative argument for making sure that those things remain free. So, and I'm more and more in favor of that. You know, I've been on quite a libertarian streak in the last few years, and I normally lean that way, but I'm seeing a real danger in just letting these quote unquote private companies do things. I don't think this is the problem. I don't think they're private companies anymore.
Right.
They are in league with the government.
Well, at the very least, we got to do, and this is why I like what O'Keefe is doing, we got to take any protections off of them that made it impossible for citizens to take any action against them. That needs to be gone like yesterday. Okay, and then we need to be made to declare that they are indeed a subsidiary of the Democrat Party, and therefore, once you decide that, then there's campaign funding and stuff they need to answer for, because this is free financial help. By the way,
it's basically CNN and Twitter and all these people. They're basically a political action committee for Democrats,
but they don't have to declare that.
No, they give so much free in-kind contributions to Democrats and liberals. It's really dangerous, because they are trying to silence the other side, and it's going to be, if they have their way, there's only going to be one side of every issue, and they're going to control it.
And Twitter and Facebook and the media platforms, that's what they see coming. So by them taking in their minds a preemptive step to establish themselves to be on the side of the soon to be, they hope, permanent majority, then they're in good. They're going to get favorable laws and regulations. And as a matter of fact, if this continues, alternatives to Twitter won't even be allowed to exist. There will be ways that can be prevented and hindered by Washington. And a lot of folks don't realize that that's also probably another front we're going to have to be battling on. But I just wanted to bring that up there. And again, my daughter, my sister and I were talking about this yesterday. Time to time, she just can't take it anymore. She's a strong conservative, and she just has to blow off some steam. And she says, Cleve, they're not even pretending anymore. You know what I'm saying? It used to be they gave a nod and a wink towards trying to be fair or objective. You know, they weren't, but they tried to at least give it an image. They don't care. Because in their minds, they have been successful in marginalizing our side in this culture war. We are now the side of white supremacy. So that means anything goes towards stifling our expressions, our protest, or anything else, because we are now on the FBI's watch list for dangerous groups.
Yeah, and I was going to say they have been successful. I'm not sure that they've been successful. They're trying to, but successful at what? They have been trying to equate anybody who disagrees with them with flat earthers, so to speak. So look, there are some viewpoints that are obviously silly and stupid and wrong that we can see that is the case. Those things aren't necessarily censored everywhere and outlawed or anything like that, but you know, we don't really give them credence, right? Like we don't necessarily give flat Earth conspiracy theorists credence. We say, okay, you know, fine, you know, okay, you think that's a little crazy, whatever. You're kind of weird, but they want that to be conservative. They want all conservative thought to be akin to flat earthers,
right?
And they're working really hard and making it happen. So there are some views that are obviously silly and stupid and don't make sense and things like that. They think that they can successfully make conservative views in that category, and they have all the ammunition to make that happen.
They're very close to reaching that objective. All right, another big front that we're attacked on. And there was a new survey by McLaughlin and Associates. They're a nationally recognized polling firm that shows overwhelming public support for the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms, and a clear majority believe that more gun control laws would not have prevented recent mass shootings in Georgia and Colorado. That survey revealed that 52.2% of the public thinks better enforcement of existing gun laws is the right approach to reducing violent crime, and 55.5% want politicians to focus on current laws rather than enacting more laws. Only 36.1% want that. So now, I'm bringing all the stats up here because if you go by the media reporting on this, the vast majority of Americans are ready for
common sense gun law.
Yeah, they're ready for it. I mean, and they want it. They're ready for it. And I keep telling people, I have to tell myself this sometimes, David, do not let the media shape your perception of where things stand, because they're only going to present it in one way. Yeah. And so we're not in the minority, even though that's the way we're being treated.
Well, like many things that the left argues for, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So they will tell you that the police in our country systematically and irrevocably racist, that black men, Cleve, this hits close to home for you, black men are being hunted in the street.
Yes, I know.
LeBron James, he's telling you, Cleve, you're being hunted in the street. By the way, cops are the only people that should have guns. These are things that, these are both arguments that
totally
that the left makes.
Yeah.
So which is it? First of all, it's neither. Neither thing is true. The one thing that I think that's interesting about this, people say that better enforcement of existing gun laws is the right approach. Who do you think enforces those? Police. That the left want to dismantle. By the way, if you do more gun laws, if you do more, the left wants to do more gun laws, guess who enforces the more? Police.
I got it.
They're not. It doesn't make so. What they want to do, it doesn't go together. Their whole philosophy doesn't go together. And I'm of the belief, and you know this, there ought to be way fewer laws. There are already way too many gun laws.
Right.
And deep down, Cleve, I think we all know that every gun law is unconstitutional.
Everything you are saying right now is so logical and yes, so very constitutional. What is going unsaid here is, again, the Democrats and progressives make their arguments by emotion. Okay, somebody's killed. Just recently, 8 more people were killed in a terrible shooting. So, in the emotion of that, in the knee-jerk reaction to that, we got to do something. We got to do something, and we got to do it now. And for so many people, that it just they fall for that. Yes, this is an emergency. It's a crisis. It's not a crisis on the border down there where people literally are in crisis situations, but this is. So I bring this up because, again, right now the majority of people in this country are not in favor of the executive order of President Biden or the Democrats' attempt to do something with the Second Amendment, to curtail it or edit it in any way. And so but again, the media presents it like, no. We're doing the will of the people who now have had enough of these killings. By the way, have you ever wondered why there are some shootings and stuff popping up now almost every other day? Have you ever been curious about that?
Cleve, I don't. It's so weird that the timing is so interesting because I don't actually think that the shootings are timed specifically, but I do think that the reporting of the shootings are timed specifically.
And the amount of time, yes.
So I really think that that violence is kind of a steady thing, unfortunately, and people use guns for that. And sometimes there are multiple people shot, and there are these incidents. But the media does decide, as we see from CNN, they decide when they're going to pick one up and run with it, and it coincides with the Democratic goal that they have.
I think the shootings now also correlate to what really is happening. I actually believe there is a rise in what would be described as mental illness. I believe that's on the increase.
Well, and homicides are up, and violent crime is up, and it's been happening ever since last year.
I actually think that's part and parcel with the immoral turn our country has made. For example, the pandemic, we talked about this before, exacerbated any kind of mental and emotional issues that people have. So, in my opinion, and this is going to make me sound like a weirdo to some, I actually believe there are spiritual influences that use unstable individuals and push them to wretched acts, whether it's suicides or, in this case, shooting other people, or both, for that matter.
What you're talking about is real life demons.
Exactly.
That will take a vulnerable person and exploit that.
David, these are the very spirits, the dark powers that the Bible talks about, principalities and powers in high places, okay, that are also influencing the progressive movement, the socialist movement, the Marxist movement. They are being animated and motivated by these same dark powers that the Bible makes us aware of that some people don't believe exist anymore. So I told somebody the other day, they kind of laughed. I said, so wouldn't it make sense if the dark powers are motivating the progressives in their actions, that they would also facilitate things and motivate actions of other people to play in to their diabolical narrative? So for me, this is both a spiritual and mental and emotional issue that is being deliberately motivated during this time.
Well, everything is spiritual.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
Whether or not we recognize it right off the bat, there are spiritual elements to all these things.
You say that, but the church doesn't really talk very much about the devil these days. The American church pretty much feels that kind of stuff is passé. Unfortunately, the Bible has a lot to say about the actions.
Well, I learned all I need to know from the W's. You are the devil and the devil is bad. You know that old song?
Yeah, but I didn't tie it with this.
Look it up.
My point is, again, and I want to say this theologically, I'm not saying the devil can make anybody do anything. That's not what I'm saying. Back in the day, we used to say the devil made me do it. Okay, yeah. That's not what I'm saying. But vulnerable individuals, people who are already unbalanced, people maybe who are in situations of great depression and whatnot, you don't think that there could not be the enemy providing temptations, motivations, and other things that could push people to do wretched things as they are feeling wretched themselves. And as we enter, I think, more and more into what a lot of people believe are the latter times, I think we're going to see more of this, not less. And the progressives will explain it as those conservative, gun-loving people just won't let us take control of those guns. They don't care who gets killed.
Well, it's going to get bad. I mean, if they keep pushing on the gun thing, I'm telling you, it's not going to go over very well.
No, but it works out for them either way, because if, for example, and a lot of people feel this, if they come for a gun grab, there's going to be, I think, some real insurrection.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to try it, but of course, they do a lot of things that I never thought they'd try.
I was going to say, just when you say they're not going to do that, boom, Biden's talking about it.
And plenty of them, and plenty of the far left, which is really, it is in control of the Democratic Party. They love it, and they say it wide open. I mean, you go back and you look at some of the things that the candidates for president said on the Democratic side. They were saying that they were going to take things. By the way, I was reminded that Joe Biden was the guy. I can't believe I forgot this. Joe Biden was the guy during the debates that said that police should be trained to shoot people in the leg.
Yeah,
you remember that? We talked about that a year ago. Somebody who says that has no business making policy about guns or police or really anything. That's a really dumb person.
Yeah,
I hate to tell you, I hate to say that. If you're somebody who thinks that shooting somebody in the leg is a viable option for a police officer, you don't know enough about this to talk about it.
And they don't. An advanced placement government teacher in Loudoun County, Virginia, is speaking out about what she calls Marxist ideas that have prompted intense infighting among county residents. Her name is Monica Gill, and she told Fox News that we're told that we're living in a country that's suffering from systemic racism, and I think that whole notion has done nothing but damage our community and our school since they began pushing equity. Now, on Tuesday, the frustration among Loudoun's parents once again burst forth during a very contentious school board meeting with plenty of mic drop moments. The vast majority of in-person guest speakers lambasted ideas associated with the so-called critical race theory or the county's stalled reopening in the pandemic. Parents repeatedly accused the administration of providing insufficient responses to their complaints. See, I'm encouraged about stories like this, because I think we need parents now. We need people on the local levels in our communities go to school boards, doing what they're doing, and saying we're not going to accept this junk being put on our kids. This critical race theory stuff.
Yeah, it's a big deal, and it's frankly, it's brave of Monica Gill to be public about what she's saying.
Because she's a target now.
It shouldn't be that way, but it is. it's brave of her to come out and say this is wrong and we shouldn't be doing this. Critical race theory is racism.
Yes.
It is wrong.
Yeah, it's really Marxism, but racism and Marxism are truly the same thing.
And it's hurting us in many, many ways. It hurts us on the local level, and it hurts us internationally.
Here's what it's doing. And I hate to say this. I actually believe it has so infiltrated our institutions, especially our education institutions, and more so now under this new administration. But I believe it has infiltrated the church. I believe, and again, as a black man, I hate to say this. I hate to say this as any kind of person, to tell you the truth, but I believe the Southern Baptist Convention is going to experience a split as a result of this issue. There are already reports of black pastors and churches who are leaving the Southern Baptist Convention, and that's a sore point.
They're leaving because they want to teach critical race theory?
Yeah, they think critical race theory should, number one, be taught in seminaries in the Southern Baptist Convention, and that it should be encouraged as a discussion.
I'm a Southern Baptist, Cleve. I have a thought on that.
Well, I want to hear it.
Bye.
Okay. Well, that's pretty eloquent. But my point is, a lot of folks are not willing to do that, and I'm praying for the Southern Baptist Convention. I'm also praying for churches in general to have the courage to say, in a loving way, if there are black pastors that maybe you've been proud to cultivate relationships with, and churches that have been part of the convention, to lovingly say, we don't want to break fellowship over this, but we have to stand on our belief that this theory, critical race theory, is antithetical to the gospel that we preach. Mm-hmm. So you can't compromise, David. There's no wiggle room. And again, sum it up for folks who may be saying, I don't know, critical race theory sounds just like a harmless concept. Basically, what does it say? Well,
it basically says that any disparity in outcome is due to the system, is due to racism, basically.
Systemic racism.
So this is especially, I wanted to mention, especially in school, why equity is such a problem and critical race theory is such a problem. And obviously, you discussed how it's a big problem in our churches. In school, it's bad because critical race theory will teach you that any disparity in outcome, any disparate outcome is due to an unjust system. That's what it is. So if Susie gets an A and Johnny gets a C, it's not because Johnny didn't study. It's not because Johnny is not good at math and Susie is good at math. It's not because of natural ability or the amount of effort that was put in or the attention. It's not due to any of that. It's the system is unjust. There must be something wrong with the test or with the teacher, with the school system in general. Yeah. It puts the onus on the system because that's the only explanation for a disparate outcome in their mind. It strips you of any kind of personal responsibility. Instead, puts you in groups, group identity. And you can see how that would be an issue in a church. But obviously in a school, that's a real big problem because not everybody is going to get the same grade, nor should they.
Right.
Because people put in different effort. You're talking to somebody who put in very little effort in high school. And
that's a great summary.
And so that's a real issue. Let me tell you about why it's an issue on the national stage too, because not national, but the world stage. But you have government officials now, including the UN ambassador, saying that America is systemically racist. We have all these issues in our country that we're racist and we have these problems and we have no right being on the humanitarian board at the UN or whatever that thing is called.
Yeah, even though China
Civil Rights Council. Yeah, we can't be on the Civil Rights Council at the UN because we're America and we're systematically racist. You got China telling Joe Biden's officials, they're having a meeting over there. They're trying to negotiate, and we're supposed to be standing up strong to China, and China's looking at us and saying, you're racist. You say that. Joe, your president stands up there and says that you're a racist country, so why should we listen to you?
Why should anybody?
Why should anybody listen to you? See why this is a problem in our foreign policy, too? Because Trump, for all his flaws, thought America was great, and he acted that way, and he treated other countries like America was an authority and was a source for good. But Joe Biden doesn't do that. Obama didn't do that. But Joe Biden has taken it another step and just talking about how racist we are, and it's hurting us on the international stage. These are people, Cleve, that say that that America's respected again now that Joe Biden is president. No, we're not, because Joe Biden is telling everybody how bad all of us are and how terrible our country is. And other countries, they're like, we believe it. We agree. That's not the way to do this. This is critical race theory. It's hurting us on every level, at the church, foreign policy, our education system. It's Cleve, a word came to my mind I've never used when I talked about it before, but wicked is a word that I thought of because it hurts people. Yes. It's a lie, and they know it's a lie. Right. And so it's wicked. It's not okay. And this kind of thing should be totally called out and lambasted.
The only people who are for this, as far as actually believing critical race theory, are unfortunately minorities, particularly blacks, who see this as an opportunity to get back and pay back what the slights that they have felt in their lives or in past generations. So for them, hey, it's gravy. It's great. It's just great. And as a black man, again, I am so offended by that would be the attitude that so many would take, because it literally is telling you and your children you are the fault for all that has happened to a people in this country. You are the reason for the outcomes of minority communities. Your actions, your attitude. And that's such a big lie, and yet hey, folks are buying into it.
And we got the UN ambassador, Cleve, out there saying that it's woven into our country, that it's in there.
Don't get me started on that.
And Ben and Jerry's is out saying that policing is just totally off. It can't be fixed. It's got to be torn down. Yeah. You got to wonder, what do you replace it with? Because our government, our UN ambassador is saying that our systems are flawed, irrevocably flawed. Ben and Jerry's, is the ice cream people are saying that. So when you get rid of this stuff, what?
You replace it with a federalized force under the thumb of the powers that be in Washington, D.C. That's what you replace it with. I'm telling you, their overall thing is to take local authority and law enforcement away and replace it with a federalized top-down control.
And when we're under the boot of the feds and there's injustices there, they will be silent. They won't say a word.
But that's where they're after. Do away with local police, but federalize the cops, and we'll get this thing straight. You'll love us. David, we got to come to an end here. They can hear this entire conversation again by doing that.
Yeah, check it out on Apple Podcasts. Check it out on Facebook and YouTube.
That's David Perry. I'm Cleve Walker. We got a lot more issues that we're going to be discussing in the future, so hang right here. There is hope, though, and we want to remind you of that because hope has a name, and for us, that name is Jesus Christ. You have a fantastic day. We'll see you later for Mere Conservatism.